One. Good.
Go. All right. Good morning. This is James Craddock with Karnika Yashwant with Key Difference Media, and this is 4D Leverage, the art and science of content. And we enjoy spending time every week just talking about different leading edge strategies, tactics, even a little bit about resources to produce and promote your content marketing. Really, what we're about, though, is the strategy. It's about ways of thinking of content because, you know, we all have the same tools, the digital access to building sales funnels, to creating content, etc. This shows more about how we come together around that content to leverage it to whatever means that we anticipate using it for. And last week we started a series to talk about the 7 arenas of content marketing. No matter how you look at your content, you're usually going to build it around a model, your approach. You're going to think about how it is that, who it is you want to talk to, what it is you want to say, and the means of getting your message to them. And it may fluctuate with different products, different agendas, etc. But typically you'll want to have a model that you build it around. And this is a model we utilize in various ways to help focus on the very personality of the person that you're talking to, of the very experience that other human is going through in life. And we break it apart into 7 different arenas in order to target those arenas. And the reason we do this is, you know, this is an elaborate model. It's got a lot of reasoning behind it, but we also see patterns in it. We see that most vendors, most brands will magnify 80% of their focus in one of these 7 arenas. Now, they don't do it purposely because this is a kind of a proprietary model that we built, but it does help us guide and helps lead us into understanding where to put the emphasis on different types of content and different agendas, etc. So that's the idea behind this. Now, before we get into that, and last week I think we covered the first 2 or 3 arenas, and I showed you some images of different products and brands that follow suit with this. This week we're going to have a little more fun. We're going to do a quick recap, but we're going to use YouTube and take a look at a few commercials that kind of amplify and reinforce this idea. But before we do that, I want to bring to you just a little something from Content Marketing Institute has done a recent survey around content marketing. And content marketing is continuing to grow and to gain usability. It's also gaining popularity. People are starting to understand how to leverage the resources that they have to make content marketing work. And these are some factors that are contributing to the B2B marketers' success over last year. And just wanted to throw this out there because it's pretty revealing, and it also explains how critical it is, really, I think, to either have an amazing team or partner with someone who has an amazing team to make all of this happen. Content creation was given the highest marks as far as contributing to the success of content marketing. So 85% of the growth came from better content being created, better strategies being used around that content, and more efficient content. One thing that we have to concern ourselves with is when we format content, that it fits the channel. Also, strategy development or adjustment, some sort of strategy, which we're going to talk a little bit about today, how you approach and speak to and motivate your prospects. 53% came from the fact that content marketing is a greater priority. It's growing in the marketplace. And that's encouraging for all of us because we understand the power of content. And the more it grows, the more it's accepted and the more it's utilized, the more efficient we can be with wielding it in our business. And then spending more time on content marketing, 53% contribution. Content marketing takes a lot of time. It takes time in the digital channels because it's organic, and it takes time to create and to reproduce and then to syndicate. So people are discovering, okay, before maybe in 2016, 2015 and prior, they didn't spend as much time focusing on their content. Now putting a lot more energy and time into it is yielding the better results. Content distribution, also better targeting, identification of what works, when to send out what. Keith always likes to talk about the fact that people don't necessarily watch videos in the morning when they're getting ready for work and driving down the road, etc. That's a time for audio, maybe. Maybe in the evening is a better time for video, or a better time for an ebook or something of that nature. During the workday, you might be more compelled to watch, to read a white paper, etc. So there's a lot of not only when you post, but what you post and how you reach out to your audience. Management and HR, companies are just better organizing themselves around content marketing. And content measurement, the last one, it's the ability to show these results and where we're having success with our content marketing. So content marketing across the spectrum is gaining authority, it's gaining trust, and look, it's an organic process that takes time to actually mature, and it's kind of funny that over the last few years it's taken time to mature and to be accepted, but it will continue, and just like your content marketing itself does, it's a build-up process, but then it hits that tipping point and content becomes incredibly powerful across the web, where it stays there serving your prospects the valuable information and the message that you have for them. So today, we're going to talk about the 7 reasons of content marketing. Again, like I said, we'll hit the first few initially to give you an idea of, in case you missed last week or whatever. But we're going to utilize some YouTube commercials to demonstrate how this works. Now, there's 7 arenas in this particular model. There's the physical arena, which is the physical space around you. And then there's the sense arena. This is how you bring in the physical arena, right? And it's not only how you bring it in, but it's how you address it. Addressing what we see visually, addressing what we hear, what we taste, what we feel, etc. in your content at the right time in the right place for the right product has incredible power. Then there's the emotional arena. The third arena is that emotional arena, which we're all as marketers trying to connect with, right? But it's not always the emotional arena that drives people. It's one of these 7. And often we distill everything down to an emotional response. And that's just our human nature, because the physical arena exists outside of us. The sense arena does nothing more than bring that in. And then the very first place, all of that data, all of that energy, all of that light comes to is your emotions. And so we live as a society, we live in our emotions, and we're compelled by our emotions. So it's such a strong arena, but it's not necessarily the place that you focus your content if you're not an emotional sale. We'll talk about that a little more. Then there is then we move to the conscious arena. So after our emotions, think of this, after your emotions digest what comes in, it passes it off to your cognitive resources, right? So you're dealing with your emotional response half the time to the things that you're trying to process intellectually. But it also is a way that a lot of people connect. It's a lot of people directly look for those stats, those figures, the features of the product, and have a cognitive connection to your content and are looking for that because that's the way they think. That's the way they operate. But also, it could be that your product or service needs to address that. I know that in our business, this content marketing and the idea of digital services and digital marketing is very much a heady conversation. It's very much about strategy and how we're going to wield all these tools, etc. And we tend to attract people that are looking for understanding that and being able to utilize it and leverage it in their business to increase ROI. That's all a conscious conversation. Then we move to the subconscious. And the subconscious is interpreted in multiple ways. Sometimes it's interpreted as personality. Sometimes it's interpreted just as that subconscious power that we have. And you'll see in the commercial that we're going to talk about or show that the subconscious approach has a lot to do with motivating that person within us, right? And accessing that higher power that we all get up every day and utilize to succeed. And that kind of content reaches beyond that cognitive thinking and really starts to implant the message of what the subconscious does on a daily basis. It gives us power, it gives us energy, it gives us focus, and it gives us basically a culmination of all our conscious thoughts to drive us. So you'll see that in there, and we'll talk a bit more about that as well. Then we move to the creative arena. The creative arena is really just that. It's the artistic side. It's the creative side. And that could be, you know, delineated between how people think creatively or what they create creatively. And you could take a creative creation and say, well, that's more physical, and that it is. So you really need to look, in light of what your business is about and who you're talking to, which lens you want to focus your content through. But if you're focusing it through the creative in order to connect with a creative audience about a creative product, it's good to know that you need to put 80% of your focus on the creative so that you can understand where the other 20% parses out across these 7 arenas. And the last one is the infinite. Some call it the spiritual, some call it the motivation, but this is the arena that is kind of the highest arena. It's high ideals. It's talking about love and grace and power of ethereal type of elements, things that we don't necessarily see and grab hold of, but rather they move us to do bigger things. And often content that is geared towards that, it definitely needs to be backed by a product that also supports it, or a product that contrasts it. And that brings me to a point that companies, for example, Intel. Intel is a very conscientious, kind of like a heady product, right? It's transistors on a chip. It's silicon wafers. It's if you got into it, if they tried to talk about the features of it, we'd be hearing all about the different buses that are on board, and the memory and the management of it all, or whatever goes on inside of an Intel chip. But rather, they come at us from a creative perspective, where they have all their colorful dancers and they bring out a different aspect of the Intel Inside mantra. So they, although they sell a heady product, a conscious related product, they tend to market it through a different channel, simply because they know that the bulk of the people that are connecting with their product don't understand the engineering behind it, and that would fall short, obviously. So in quick review, the physical, when you're creating content, you're thinking about, all right, do I channel, how much of, do I channel through this physical aspect? Do I benefit from showing my building, my location, my machinery, my people, even my processes and things that are physical within my business? And if so, then I need to consider my content along that line, break it down, and decide what I'm going to put out across digital spaces in order to attract people who are also looking for that physical aspect. So let's move over here to YouTube, and we're going to take a look at some Ford pickup commercials, because Ford is Ford pickup, built tough, right? That's kind of their motto, and they're very much a physical approach. And there are other car companies that utilize more of an emotional approach to their cars. And here recently, Cadillac's kind of moved into a spiritual approach, utilizing different actors and characters in their commercial, right, to give you a sense of what that car is all about. So it's not product specific on which one of these arenas that you would filter your piece of content or your entire platform through, but it can always be identified. All right, here's Ford's physical commercial.
Top truck demonstration. We're dropping the 78 Ford.
Can you hear that okay?
Free fall. The approval point. Ford pickups are built tough. Let's see that again. Some terrific pounding, huh? It's nice to know a Ford took a free fall like this without damage. And good to know you've got strong twin I-beam suspension up front.
And listen to the language they use.
Ford, built down to earth, tough. 93 out of 100 of all Ford trucks registered over the last 12 years are still on the job.
Now, they give a whole litany of commercials here, but we'll stop at that one. Listen to the language they even use. They use the word earth. They're talking about physical elements. And by doing that, they're driving you to they're driving people to that physical sale. And that would mean the rest of their message and the rest of their conversion process, it needs to fall in line with that element of the physical. All right, so we already talked about this last week. Check out the previous video if you really want to get a little more in depth on that. But let's go ahead and move to the sensual aspects, which are our senses, our eyes, our ears, our touch, our taste, our smell. These are more particular to different businesses. If you're a flower shop, as we mentioned last week, you might want to magnify the sensual aspects of your product. And other competitors may magnify the emotional response that a flower being given to somebody brings. But in the sensual world, let's take a look at a video over there. I love the Sonic commercials for this idea, because Sonic, you know, you see these commercials in at various times on the television, right? You'll see a commercial that makes no sense or has no real direct purpose or application for what they're advertising. And it's what they're doing is using that to frame the subtext of their actual message, their actual theme. So Sonic here is gonna, you know, you can listen to these guys talk all day long because they're just being goofy. They're just being ignorant. They're just having fun. They're just, it's like slapstick, right? But the whole time they are showing in the background the menu of them sitting in the drive-through. They're showing the shakes. They're showing the food. It looks beautiful, and your mind spends its time just kind of vegging out on this nonsense that these guys are doing in the car, while the rest of your senses are picking up on just how amazing this Sonic food is. By the way, not so good for you. Sonic will put you in the grave pretty quick, but tasty stuff. All right, fast food. Here we go.
Back to school day is finally here.
I think we know what that means.
That's right, half-price cheeseburgers.
Yeah, time to dust off the old letter jacket.
Yeah.
What does the L stand for?
Lunch. It's part of the lunch team.
Look how perfectly their sandwiches are.
Ground, so they let us sit all by ourselves way off in the distance.
Don't even move them.
And they all had a salute for us when the lunch team walked by. They give us this.
Go TJ, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Get in the back-to-school spirit with half-price cheeseburgers.
Total
on August
sensation,
15th
total
for
senses.
National Back-to-School Day. This is Sonic. If half of your brain wants something sweet, you can get Cinnamon Snacks treats. If the other half wants something savory, you get a breakfast burrito.
Right. Well, that's cool for you.
Savory,
Every brain has two
sweet,
sides.
All
Comes
brains
out in
have
the
two
language
sides.
as well.
Mine doesn't.
Every brain has two sides.
No, my doctor says I only have one side.
You know what? I wish that your brain was smart enough to understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about your brain.
I lost you after I wish.
Breakfast two ways all day. Breakfast burritos and new Cinnamon Snacks.
They got more, but well, let's move on. But you can see that. I mean, they just totally are going after the senses. And what are they going to do? Shove food in your face the whole time? No, they just about do that, but they kind of mask it with that little routine that those guys do. It's awesome. All right, so moving back over here to our 7 arenas. So now let's move into the emotional side. The emotional. Again, this is the most powerful one. This is the one we're all going after. But, you know, there's certain things that you can sell with the emotions, even though this might be your end result. Even with those senses, we're ultimately going for an emotion, but we're not channeling it through the emotion necessarily. Every company has an emotional item to it. A yo-yo maker may go after fun. A car maker may go after, you know, something that's risk-takey or a sexiness quality to it. This is just, you know, you can look at anything. If you're selling a glassware, you know, and you want to talk about the emotional side, you can always find a story. You can always find an angle to create an emotional sell. And this is what people oftentimes do mistakenly with their content. They're looking for the emotional, especially nonprofits. They're looking for that emotional connection, and it may not be the right connection. However, when it's done and done right, it's very powerful. You're going to probably recognize this next one from time back, but this is Sally Struthers, probably the icon of emotional selling, right? Along the lines of the Children's Fund. Anyhow, let me play this real quick.
Every year, 10 million third world children don't live to see their third birthday. Those who do live beyond that ripe old age here will grow up in dumpsters like this. Happy birthday.
She couldn't have been more sappy there with her build up and then just this crying of a happy birthday. That's an emotional appeal. And of course, in nonprofit work like this, it's a well-known stat that you want to show the emotional side and you want to show the pain side because it's what gets people to react. So in this case, it's an absolute winner. But make sure that when you utilize the emotional side, it's the slipperiest of all of them. It's the one that you have to, first of all, deal with the most complex aspect of the human persona, the emotions. And so it really requires a lot of thought and a lot of strategy to approach it just right. Or it can backfire. It can backfire worse than probably anything else. The conscious mind, then, we in the conscious mind, we speak to the logic and rationale, which may include the facts and figures like mean time between failures, quality control processes, safety ratings if it's a technical product. But it could also, McDonald's has taken this approach. They really sell through the emotional a lot. They sell through the senses and the taste, but they also market their product through the conscious. And the bigger, obviously, a business is, the more opportunity they have to maybe focus on these different arenas. And they will say when McDonald's suddenly started getting beat up for the quality of their food, the fast food, and that one movie about the guy that did nothing but eat McDonald's for a long time, right? When that happened, they suddenly had to change their menu and they had to change their entire persona. And the way they did it is they went after the conscious mind. They said, look, we're recreating this menu, and they moved it up to a little higher echelon kind of approach. And they attracted people to their new menu through the calorie count and through the type of things that you will be eating and consuming. They changed over from French fries in a kid's meal to apples in a kid's meal and made sure you understood how that was going to be good for you. And they took a conscious approach to doing that. And when we do the conscious approach in our work and in our content, we've got to recognize that, number one, we might be very good at the conscious side of our product. And therefore, we talk about ourselves, we talk about our business, we talk about our process, and we do nothing but turn off the client. What the prospect wants to hear, what customers want to hear, what we all want to hear is that old, dial in the channel of what's in it for me, WIIFM, and we want to know how it's going to help us. How's it going to fill the void in my life so I can move on? Because all that other stuff doesn't matter. But when we approach conscious content, often we can just get too overwhelmed and too self-absorbed with those elements. And we have to make sure that we're presenting them in such a way that it's demonstrating the result of our product and how we get there from that conscious perspective. So that's just kind of a warning. Now, I often like to say that when you use these 7 arenas, you are representing your business in alignment with what they're looking for. And you need to show who you are because people are naturally attracted to who you are. But you have to do it without saying, this is me. This is the business. This is our business. This is this. You have to kind of just show up. It's like if somebody who walks into a room and kind of takes the breath away of everybody in the room, right? Or takes over and has that magnetic personality. They don't do it by pointing at themselves. They do it by showing up, being clear, being well, designed for that event, however they're dressed, whatever they say. They show up with confidence. And these kinds of studies and this kind of a path can really serve your content when you're going at it from the conscious connection and you're going at it with facts and figures and safety ratings and processes, etc. So let's take a quick look at a great ad for the conscious. Volvo tends to be, how do I get that guy to go away? There he goes. Volvo tends to sell their products consciously. They want you to recognize that they have a safety rating far and away above all other automobile manufacturers. And this is a genius ad because they mingle in a bit of the emotion, a bit of the senses. They really do a lot of great stuff. But ultimately, their message here is strictly the conscious arena. They want you to know that they have the best specifications in the safety rating, and they do it in a brilliant way.
I've had my ups and downs, my fair share of bumpy roads and heavy winds. That's what made me what I am today. Now I stand here before you, What you see is a body crafted to perfection, a pair of legs engineered to defy the laws of physics, and a mindset to master the most epic of splits.
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows? Only time. And who can say if your love grows as your heart shows? Only time.
Wait for the call to action. Wait for the last. Here it is. And notice they didn't utilize Jean-Claude Van Damme's acting skills. It's kind of like using Luke Skywalker in the last movie, putting him at the very end with only one scene and no words. They simply said, "All right, Jean-Claude Van Damme, do what you do best," and he did his splits. But that's Volvo talking to the conscious, without having to spill all that other stuff. And that's a perfect example of they didn't talk about themselves. They simply demonstrated, and that's the key word, demonstrate your ability and your features and your technical specifications. Demonstrate them, and you'll talk to the conscious mind without bringing light upon yourself. All right, two, which tends to be negative. The subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind is that, we just left the stage. We just left the period of dissecting the subconscious mind, right? We started off with psychologists over the last 50 years who have parsed different elements of the subconscious. We've learned the value of subconscious programming when it comes to advertising and marketing and things of this nature and communication. And then we moved into the neural sciences, and we started to have video and images on a screen that show us how our brain works and what it's doing while it's doing it. And we've kind of figured out the subconscious mind in a lot of ways and are able to utilize it in our everyday life and in our businesses, etc. And the subconscious, it could be the people, not the physical people, but what they're all about, the culture of the people, the personality of either the person, yourself, or your entire company. And personality is a great way to kind of wrap up a tangible way to identify the subconscious mind in somebody. Look at their personality, and you will quickly discover, if they're drama, I like to call drama people hi-fi drama mamas. If they're a hi-fi drama mama, right, the subconscious is probably playing with a lot of, it's probably struggling with a lot of calamity. And there's not a settling, right, in the subconscious mind. And that could be due to personal habits. It could be due to childhood issues, whatever. It could be due to a mate, a spouse that they're working. It could be due to a boss or where they work and the environment. But that subconscious mind spends all of its time recording what the conscious brings in and then serving back what it is that we do, who we are, and how we act and how we interact. So that subconscious mind is what determines if a man can walk across two giant, tall buildings in the middle of New York on a tightrope carrying a pole with no way to catch himself. That subconscious mind is what determines if somebody can make it to the top of a tall mountain when they go climbing in negative 30-degree weather, because they have a mindset. And of course, this translates to a lot of areas in our personal lives, of course, and success. And he's an extreme sports guy, and he does free diving. And I should open it up. Key, tell us. Oh my, he's like, don't put me on the spot. But Key subconscious mind. Tell us just a fragment. Give me just a little taste of deep of free diving and how the subconscious mind has to be prepared for that activity.
Okay, so here's the thing: when you are trying to do something which your mind body is not designed for, like you're going to be holding your breath and you're going to go in. So you're going to go in for as long as you want to. It could be 50 feet or 100 feet, so 50 meters, 50 feet down. And when you go there, and at that point, your mind would come up with a lot of excuses. It would say, okay, you're going down. Probably there is some itch in your hand. Let's go up back and let's go to the fresh air. Let's look at what the itch is, or let's maybe you're not ready for it today, and it will come up with hundreds and thousands of excuses. It will always ask you to try it some other time because it's designed to help you and to protect you, but not for you to break open your comfort zone and go out there and do something. So when this happens, if you give into it, then you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it today. You're not going to do it tomorrow. Whenever the day comes, the same thought is going to surface back in your mind and you're going to get struck. But the day you decide to look into that subconscious mind, to know what it is saying, and to also understand why it is saying it, and you continue to go down by making that choice, you make a difference. You come back up after all that diving after 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes without letting your breath out, and you're a different person. You're no more the same person that you were when you went in.
And because of that, sporting goods tend to target the subconscious mind type of advertising. And that's because sports and athleticism, it's all a matter of the mind. Navy SEALs, they're not Navy SEALs because they're strong and big and tough necessarily in the physical. They're Navy SEALs because they have a tough subconscious mind. Who also, I grew up in back east when Spud Webb was playing college basketball, and I believe Spud Webb played a few years in the NBA as well. Sure, he's like 5'3" and could dunk. That is a product of the subconscious mind, being willing and being determined to do the impossible. And a lot of unlikely sports figures come on the scene and make something of themselves simply because they have this mindset. And when a sports figure hits a wall and doesn't know how to go further, read the story of I'm going to kill it with the tennis player. He did all the Nikon Rebel commercials. I can't remember his name. You're probably saying it right now in your own head. So good. Your subconscious mind's working better than mine right now. But he kept hitting brick walls as to his performance, if you read his life story. And what did he do? He hired people, and this is before a lot of people understood this. He started hiring people in order to got text coming in order to get him past those breaks, as Key just described, in order to, so that his performance could come out, so that what he could physically do would actually get done. So sports content and content that wants to invigorate people, coaches and people who are trying to inspire you to grow and to do bigger things, they want to go after that subconscious mind kind of mindset. So this is a great video. It's a little bit long, but it's worth the watch because it really encompasses how this can be done artfully, and also it just all throughout it, you're going to see just over and over, and I'll mention a few of them because there's plenty of time, of how Nike addresses the subconscious. It begins with just kind of setting them all up in the position of needing that power.
First stays on. It's on Cristiano Ronaldo is. Yeah? I want Neymar. They will never do that.
Sorry, he doesn't like my...
1-0 and it goes wild. Son, I've got 50,000 fans screaming my name. That's not fair.
That's what's in their heads, right?
Well, I've got proof I aren't even out yet. Para de Davi Luiz. Senão fica feia.
Messing with it, getting in his head.
Então. You mean the yes stop?
Flota antes da flota chuta.
Sono contento di non essere lui.
It's good header.
Get that! Come on! Come on! Just come on! I should make the little girls dance. Come
That's some serious subconscious training.
We're going to give the penalty. It's Cristiano Ronaldo. But hold on a second. Again. He's taken the ball off Cristiano Ronaldo.
Awesome. So that's Nike's approach to connecting with the subconscious in that video, to risk everything. Sorry, we'll kill that. All right, how we doing on time there, Key?
I think it's we could still cover one more, and then we could go on to the question and answers.
Okay, well, we have two more, so we'll do both of them quickly, and they're short videos. The creativity of the business, whether it's your proprietary processes, your unique solutions, problems that you solve. Maybe it's also the very nature of the product or the nature of the audience that you are addressing, that it's creativity, it's acting, it's theatrical, it's musical, etc. A lot of reasons to use creativity, and creativity is kind of like the emotional arena in that you have to make sure if you're going to address it along the line, if you're going to address creativity in your content, you've got to be very creative, right? You've got to have the best of the images, graphics, and video, etc. So this is a very expensive approach, but it's also very powerful, incredibly powerful. And I say expensive because it just takes more time, more resources, more energy. And it doesn't mean that you're being creative in your conscious approach. Every piece of content you create has to have creativity in it. We're talking about the approach, talking to a creative crowd through a creative lens with creative content. Somebody who does this very well, of course, and markets the creativity of what would be otherwise a very boring product is IKEA. Now, I personally I'm all thumbs, totally. When it comes to building IKEA stuff, you know, they don't even need to include instructions because that just confuses me as much as actually if I, you know, just try to do it on my own. But IKEA, they come across, especially in this ad, but they come across as a place that you can go and be creative with your personal space. And of course, they have their other features. If you want to think of the fact that they put them together, you know, with specific instructions and it's kind of modular furniture and things of that sort of relates to that conscious arena. But they sell the idea that IKEA gives you the ability to just mix and match and create your space however you want. All right. This is even called the IKEA Creative Ad.
The secret to any tasteful kitchen is, of course, quality ingredients. Start by measuring the space you want to fill. Select a nice, juicy rack of cabinets and cut them into more manageable sizes. Pre-cut white shelves are both affordable and tasty, but a little marinade really brings out the flavour. If you like it hot, like me, add some red doors for that extra spice. For warm lighting, you'll want to separate the white from the yellow. A bit of seasoning holds all the flavours together. And voila! Garnish with tea towels and remember to wash your hands before serving. Now, try your own recipe. With our new customizable Intuitive Kitchen, you'll find all the ingredients from the 2016 IKEA catalog.
Oh, I thought I was Did I lose it? Am I still on? I'm good. All right. I think I'm good. Let's move to the last one. And let's take a look at the spiritual nature so that we can close up here. Obviously, we don't mean religion of the corporation. What we mean are the moral and social aspects. And what we're talking about here has to do with how you approach the content or how the brand how they approach the brand. What are your environmental contributions, your social responsibility? Do you have a nonprofit charity partner that you support? How affirming are you of your employees? Showing off the good that they do in the community, at home, and on the job. The future is going to be embraced by a nonprofit model. It already is. There are many books being written about this idea, and you see companies more and more creating cause marketing relationships around a nonprofit and a for-profit alignment. And to do it with content is the most flexible way you can possibly do it, because content allows you to shape the perception in the industry and to bend whatever it is that the nonprofit is doing around what the for-profit is doing in order to create that tight integration. And that's when you're marrying a nonprofit with a for-profit. But some businesses are strictly, or some personalities are strictly spiritual by nature, and that's how they approach it. I just got a great LinkedIn post by someone yesterday who is they're a business coach, has a marketing or a master's degree in marketing, and very much experienced in the business world. But the approach is more of a spiritual nature, and she talks more about the spiritual aspects of somewhat mindset and somewhat how you treat yourself and treat your body and treat everything that you do. And she takes all of those business approaches and she props up that spiritual, she uses that spiritual aspect to prop up all those business approaches. And so many different ways. And again, this is an area that you want to make sure you've got everything on the back end nicely packaged and properly presented so that there's not like a misconception, and it needs to follow your brand. Now, last week I utilized Oprah as an example, and I'm going to do it again and show you a commercial from, I think, 1993. But if you look at Oprah's magazine, you can see it very clearly just in her just in the covers. What's your true calling? Live your best life. Favorite things. What's that? What?
Your screen is not shared. Just share your screen again.
Oh, I lost the share. My apologies. Hang on. I control that? I have no idea. I have the power. All right. You see? All right. So Oprah, she does an amazing job of marketing to the spiritual. Own your power, confidence, express yourself. But then you can see she sprinkles a little bit over here. I got to use my mouse. You can't see my finger, but she sprinkles a little bit of the hair, how to transform your, I don't know what she has there. Maybe it's nails. But she sprinkles a little of the physical, a little of the emotional, a little of the sensual, but she's primarily about the spiritual side of things. And here's a great commercial. Here's a commercial from 1993. The song really kind of sets the tone to the commercial. But this is Oprah even early on, just trying to empower women from that spiritual perspective. I love how she ended it. That's so Oprah. So anyhow, this entire package of these 7 arenas, you can find them, you can take this lens and you can apply it to your prospects. You can look at them and say, what are their physical, sensual, emotional, conscious, subconscious, creative, and infinite or spiritual attributes, and list them and break it down and figure out what they look like in that frame, so that when you look back at your content and say, okay, this, I'm going to speak to this, and I'm going to use demonstration methods, and I'm going to use, whatever tools and resources you have in your arsenal to be able to do that. And you'll find that you can create a very connected connection between you and your prospect. And the beauty of this is everybody is kind of built around these 7 arenas. So as you go to create the target, and you'll create your avatar and things of that nature, this just becomes another tool in the toolkit to help you make sure that every piece of content that enters their mind, their 7 arenas, it triggers something. And you may trigger in somebody. People are triggered by different things, but if you're aligned and you find people that know what they're looking for and they're aligned with that, and you have created content that is structured in such a way that it compels them naturally, then that is the most powerful way to utilize organic content, because it will naturally attract them to you. We can talk about that all day long. So the more of these arenas your prospects engage with, the more attracted to you they will be. So if you have a small budget and you're doing your own content marketing, figure out what that 80% is and target it. Hit it over and over and over and over, and let that be what you speak until you're able to support that other 20%, because that other 20% doesn't give you as much ROI. What that other 20% does is it enables more, and this is the beauty of this, in marketing we say, talk to one person, everybody else will hear, be clear with your message. It's kind of that idea. And that other 20% will be more hooks you can put in the water to draw more people in. And when somebody sees your content, maybe they don't resonate with your 80% content, but they will resonate with something along the other line, which is why you see the rest of that kind of peppered in. But the more of these you use, and the smarter you use them, knowing which ones resonate best with each other and how to play off of them, the more powerful your content can be. So what are the next steps? You need to produce content in multiple formats at high levels of quality. You need to syndicate that content in the channels where your prospects are searching. You got to use retargeting ad strategies if you can to ensure they see as many of these as possible in the shortest amount of time, so that you can control that emotional response. And add your logo and your brand with a compelling call to action across all those channels, across all your content, and put a very powerful call to action that brings them back to a conversion optimized landing page with a quality lead magnet and a powerful email nurturing campaign that ultimately leads to sales calls and closed deals. And this is the process. This all encompasses the power of content marketing. Key. Anybody have any questions on the 7 arenas, a holistic approach to content marketing?
I would just like to add this one thing here. When we look at all the 7 arenas, we have a tendency to just right away jump in and try to put something together so we can get this part done and over with. But let's not do that. Let's try to go to a quiet place where we are all by ourselves with no internet and no phone. Let's sit there and let's analyze the business, because this is about the core of how we and our business function. This is the foundation. And if we get this right, you could do everything else right. It just falls into place. So think over this, take some time. Don't freeze on it immediately. You could make some iterations and improvise on it until you are really sure that you got it perfectly in there. You could even pass it on with your team members, partners, or those who understand your business, even with some of your clients whom you trust and whom you have a good relationship with. Send it over and think if what you wrote out there is apt and if it's something that they resonate with. Take in some ideas and keep improvising on this. This is going to be your mantra for your business. If you can get this part right, any advertisements or any proposals or designs that you do, or any form of marketing that you're trying, you can just use this as a template. You know exactly what you need to do. What is a mix you need to add in? 80% of this and 20% of couple others, and what comes out. And all it matters after that is writing that copy around it and writing that creative story around it. But you have what is needed. You have done the major chunk of your work yourself, sitting alone, quiet and thinking about it. So focus on getting this right, and you will have a huge push and good response from your industry in any whichever way you're marketing. And I wish you all the best with this approach.
And to add to that, I like the call to action you gave there of take a look at your existing business and determine where is it that your content falls into this spectrum. Also look at your clients and ask yourself, what's attracting my clients? And if you're not purposely approaching it this way, what that means is whoever you're attracting, when you figure out where 80% of your clients are coming in through the spectrum of these 7 arenas, that's your natural approach. And of course, you're not approaching it this way. You probably just learned of this whole concept, right? So when you do your analysis of yourself, you'll recognize, all right, my business does business with people on an emotional level. I mean, that's just what works. And maybe you already know this, but in light of these 7 arenas, focus that down. And now when it comes to sales calls and how you interact with people and who you choose to do business with or not do business with, or how you approach, the most powerful word in sales is no, understanding who you can disqualify so that you get to the people that you can qualify and move into down the line so that you can help them. This becomes an incredible asset on that line too. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Any comments, or throw out something in your business that you'd like us to address here in the last few minutes, and we'd love to talk about it. And there's always that period of silence. We have to wonder if anybody's even listening.